Hello, this is John Sturck for CSI. We are at the CSI studio at Construct 2019, speaking with our newly inducted CSI fellow, Kermit Duncan. Kermit, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, John.
And congratulations on your fellowship.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So, I understand you've been a CSI member for going on about 32 years. Tell us a little bit about how you got started with CSI.
Well, I started with CSI, I think early on, even before I knew what CSI was. One of my early firms I worked in a couple years after college, I got to know the specifier. And one of my tasks was to update the catalogs. And so I started to learn the 16 division format, which I did not know at the time, and started to find out a little bit about CSI and specifications, because I didn't learn much of that in school. But where it really came to task, probably a few years later, I had an opportunity to work with a construction team on a construction management project. And one of the suggestions I had from mentors I had is like, hey, maybe you should look at joining CSI, because I had, up to that point, I'd only worked in an architectural office and kind of knew what someone that did drafting in an architectural office would know, very little about what's going on in the field. So I took up the challenge and joined CSI at that point, and it was just amazing. I mean, first of all, I started to meet a lot of the people that I also was working with in the field in the construction management team on the project. So that was one side of it. And then I was also kind of clued in on the CDT training about the same time, and decided that I would take up that challenge and go after my CDT, and just learn so much more about the documents and how things should be. I actually had an education from the contractor, but there was a little relearning to learn what the standard document said versus what the office did, and everybody modifies it, but it was a perfect way to start my education in the field of construction management.
So your membership in CSI has really guided a lot of your career.
It has. I mean, most of my career now, it's been probably 50% in architectural offices, 50% as a construction manager, a project manager for construction firms, sometimes working in the design build entities. Right after that first big project, I had an opportunity to work out in Montana for a while, and I actually ended up doing a project on my own as a construction manager to redevelop an existing hotel into an existing assisted living facility. And all those things I learned working with the construction management team, all the things I learned in CSI, all got put to the test. It was a successful project, finished on time, under budget. The owner was happy, I was happy. It couldn't have been better.
So what advice would you give to an emerging professional just getting started in the profession?
Well, I think, especially getting started in the profession, I mean, you need, whether you know it or not, you need all the help you can get. And for us people that have been in the profession for a long time, we need all the help that we can get. And one of the ways that you develop that network, CSI is a great way to do it. I mean, there are people that are expert in every product that you can think of, every field that you can think of. And most people don't know everything about the construction process because your work is only one segment of it, but you fill in the gaps with people that you get to know, become friends with. It's not the middle of a project and you're hastily trying to put the team together. You build relationships over time. And when the need comes up, you think of those people that will help you most. And I can give you examples of that even. I'll give you one quick one. I remember working on a project years ago. I did inspections for lenders around the country. And I had a project that happened to be in south of Chicago. I don't remember where, but it happened to be a roof. I was inspecting the whole facility. But one problem, the roofing was, they were having problems with the roofing, and it was a sheet type product for the roof. It was tearing apart at the seams, and my basic knowledge told me, well, when something's tearing apart at the seams, something's wrong with the installation, but I didn't know exactly what. So I get back to my home chapter in Minneapolis, And I quickly, I called up the local rep for that product, and he said, well, here's the rep's name in the Chicago area, talk to them. Called them up, 5 minutes later, I'm talking to him, he identified the project and the problem, and he told me the contractor that installed that no longer is licensed to install our products because they have improper seaming tools. They weren't doing it correctly. I was done with my report, and I knew that it was not going to be challenged because I had all the facts. And that was 2 phone calls, maybe 10 minutes of my time. Whereas the other way would have been, how do you find that out and how can you be sure? But that network was very, it's nationwide. The network is, if the person locally doesn't know, they have somebody else for you.
So that's a really great illustration of the value of membership in your chapter and being involved in the region and the national levels.
It is. I've had the opportunity to work in the North Central region as we call it a region district coordinator. You basically report to the region president. There's close to 20 chapters in the region. No one president can make the visit to all of them in a year if you hold down a job. So anyway, I visited 2 other chapters in our area. I get, find out what they're doing and got to know them. They're doing as many exciting things in their chapter as we are in my home chapter. And you find, there hadn't been many calls for, collaboration between the 2, but I've learned so much from their chapters. There was a hospital being built at the Fargo chapter, Red River Valley. Got a tour of that from a contractor that's nationwide, but happened to be building that project. They were doing some innovative things there that I got to learn from through their presentation. I go up to the Duluth chapter, Twin Ports, and they have fantastic presentations. Our most recent region conference was there. I'm from the Minneapolis chapter, but I said that incorrectly. The most recent region conference was actually in St. Louis, which was another exciting one, but Duluth was the year before. And I think all the members from the region got to experience snow in Duluth. So that was one thing from their conference, but St. Louis was fantastic. Our next one coming up is in Lawrence, Kansas. I'm looking forward to being there and finding out about that area a little bit more. And I'm actually on not to toot my own horn, but I'm on the region board now. So I'll be a part of that and hoping to be a good leader of all, helping all the chapters with what they need.
So a long history of activity with CSI, and it's not over yet.
Not over yet. Nope.
Kermit Duncan, newly inducted fellow of CSI, thank you so much for joining us. At the CSI studio at Construct 2019, I'm John Sturck.